You're listening to ADHD Support Talk. ADHD Support Talk is brought to you by addclasses.com. Visit www.addclasses.com to sign up for helpful online events and resources today. Well, hello. I want to welcome you back to ADHD Support Talk. I am your co-host, Lynne Edris, and I am a productivity coach. So I empower professionals to take control of their time and their lives so that they can fulfill their potential more easily and have more time and energy for what matters most to them. And I am a woman with ADHD myself, guys. So I've been there, I've done that, and I get it. I've gone from living in a constant state of chaos and overwhelm and underperformance that most of us with ADHD know far too well to live a life of more success and fulfillment than I really dreamed was possible for me at one time. And that's what I want for every single one of you. You can learn more about me and what I do and the programs and services I offer on my website, which is coachingadvantages.com. So today I have with me a longtime colleague I haven't connected with in a while. I'm excited to have on the show Jeff Copper, and in a few moments we're going to talk about a new paradigm Jeff has for ADHD, which I'm really excited to hear about and to have him share with you. So welcome to ADHD Support Talk, Jeff.
Lynn, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Well, I'm excited to have you here, and I'm excited to hear about what you have to share. So go ahead and, if you would, tell our listeners a little bit about you, where they can learn more about what you do, connect with you if they'd like to, all that
Sure.
good stuff.
I'm Jeff Copper. I'm a cognitive engineer, an attention and ADHD coach, and we'll talk about the cognitive engineer thing in a second. I've been coaching since 2007, host of Attention Talk Radio, Attention Talk Video, and really owner of Dig Coaching Practice is really my main stuff. And that you can find that at www.digcoaching.com. But just been doing this for as long. Both of us have been doing this for a really long time.
Yes.
So it's a passion of mine and a calling to help people really try to figure stuff out, just like yours.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, tell me a little bit, like let's just jump right in. You talk about a new paradigm for ADHD. So let's start with what is a paradigm? Like explain that.
A paradigm is a change in our conceptual understanding of something. And what I like to say is a paradigm is like a science type thing. A mindset is an individual thing. They're kind of the same thing. Just one is like we all have mindset, but a paradigm is like mankind's like mindset. And basically what they are is they're mental models that we use to navigate the world. Okay. And a paradigm shift or a new paradigm is when there's a radical change in some of the fundamental ways we look at it. So, for example, at one point in time, we thought we were the center of the universe, right? Then Galileo
Some
said,
people
no,
still do. I'm just saying, right?
Yeah. Galileo said, no, we rotate around the sun. Or Isaac Newton never said it, but he inferred gravity is a force that pulled. And Einstein's like, no, nothing is pulled. It falls in, and basically said space and time are curved. At one point in time, we thought the world was flat and it's actually round. So when a paradigm shift is an interesting thing because it changes our conceptual understanding, and it's not a pleasant experience because basically all paradigms or all mindsets have anomalies that have things that just can't be explained, and it's brushed off as insignificant. It's when those anomalies becomes so they become more and more there that you realize it throws you into chaos, and your mind has to go through this brutal intellectual battle to let go of the old paradigm and shift to the new. And some people will never make it because they resist, or some people won't switch over to the new paradigm because their existence relies on the old paradigm. But the new one is a new way of looking at things that begins to explain stuff that couldn't be explained before. And so really paradigms are really revolutionary. And I'm here today to talk about one that I feel like I've come on, and what I'm here to talk about is what the new paradigm has produced. So it's kind of exciting. So I'll just kind of pause and see if you have any questions on that.
It is when you work in the ADHD world as we do with, a wide variety of clients. I mean, I've never done the math. I don't know how many. It's been almost 20 years for me as well. I think we started right around the same time.
Yep.
from people from all over the world, all walks of life, all different kinds of challenges. Of course, there's always those
Hmm.
common threads, but there have always been a lot of things that, tend to be common difficulties or common presentations when it comes to adults with ADHD that the current model just doesn't
Yep.
explain or
Yep.
doesn't really help people understand.
Yep.
Right. And that's a big part of what we do is trying to get
Yep.
helping our clients understand themselves, understand the way their brains work, understand how they work best, understand, what works best for them,
Yep.
what they need to be successful, what they need to maintain, what they need to watch out for, all of that, really knowing yourself and understanding
Yep.
yourself. When you have ADHD, a big
Yep.
part of that is really understanding ADHD. And
Yep.
I think there are just so many pieces that are A, misunderstood, and B, like not explained by the way we look at ADHD now.
And a lot of that is because we make observations with our senses aided by some type of technology. In the world of ADHD, pretty much we view people's behavior and infer what's going on inside their head from that behavior. So we're really looking at the symptoms.
Right.
So what I've done basically, Dr. Russell Barkley, many years ago, didn't understand ADHD wasn't considered an executive functioning impairment, and he at a conference in 2010 he argued 7 different ways why it had to be an executive functioning impairment, even though it didn't register as an impairment on exams. So he
Right.
took a look at the definitions of executive function, and it was like an anything goes. So he set
Right.
out to define executive functions in very specific, precise definitions so we could determine what is and is not an executive function. And there's other models that are out there. I don't care for most of the other ones because they are focused on outcome and emotional, but Dr. Barkley's is really kind of cool because executive functions are a collection of mind tools that we use to
Mhm.
solve problems, right? This is important. Daydreaming, worrying, judging, making opinion doesn't require executive functions, nor does walking, eating, or sleeping. What we're talking about specifically is solving problems, taking what we've learned and solving problems. And in
Right.
my coaching, what I've learned is that problems, there's a few interesting characteristics. They're multifaceted and there's some level of ambiguity to it.
Right.
And when you begin to understand that and you look at planning and making decisions and managing time, well, they're multifaceted and they're ambiguous.
Right.
No wonder people with ADHD have it. So again, until now, we really didn't have the technology to do much about it. But since Dr. Barkley defined these executive functions very, very specifically, what I did is I've developed something called attention scope. It's a collection of simulated experiences that I put people in to bring tangibility to what Dr. Barkley has defined. So, for example, one exercise, I'll have somebody make a meal, eat a meal, and clean a meal up using their less dominant hand. Now, when they do that, they'll say, oh my God, that was awkward, or I was frustrated, which is the normal kind of subjective observation. But I go, no, let's wait, think about this. Did you notice you had to be kind of on guard every second of that exercise? That's what self-awareness is.
Right.
Oh, did you notice you got frustrated and you had to calm yourself down? That's emotional self-regulation. That's 2 executive functions. Did you notice you had to restrain your urge to use your dominant hand? That's another executive function. Did you notice is that you might have had to visualize you holding the knife in your dominant hand to visualize holding it in your that's verbal working memory. So in these experiences, I brought tangibility to what Dr. Barkley has defined. So then we can go out into the world and a person can begin to recognize how it unfolds in their life. Now,
Right.
this is kind of heady stuff, but cognitive ergonomics from the inside out doesn't take emotion. It just looks at executive functions, very black and white. It looks at thinking as a process. And what I'm here today to announce that I'm very excited about, and by the way, this isn't coaching and this is not therapy, it's just engineering. Now,
Right.
I'm saying engineering because that's important. There's all kinds of engineering. There's mechanical engineering, there's civil engineering, there's electrical engineering, but there's also a field called industrial engineering or
Right.
systems engineering. Under that is a subfield called ergonomics. It's about fitting the job to the person. all right, to increase safety, increase productivity, to reduce stress. And it's quite advanced in the physical world when it comes to desks and chairs. But when it comes to the cognitive world, it's really quite primitive because it's really guesswork. It's kind of from the outside in. Cognitive ergonomics from the inside out is from the inside out because we're bringing tangibility to what to look for. So now the whole field is about adjusting the task to fit the cognition of the person, not behaviorally training somebody to do a certain way. Make sense so far?
Absolutely. And I'm grinning ear to ear, Jeff, because, which of course our audience can't see, but I'm literally grinning ear to ear. My husband is an industrial engineer and he works in factory automation. And anybody who's worked with me in any of my group programs or privately, I talk a lot about the engineering perspective. Right? An engineer doesn't look at an assembly line or a machine or something that they've created and, see a point of failure as a failure, right? They don't say, I suck, I can't do this, I'm done, and I'm going to try another machine. They very systematically, very slowly, piece by piece, analyze objectively without judgment. There's none of that, I suck, I'm the worst engineer ever stuff going on in their heads. They analyze point by point until they find the point of failure and they adjust accordingly. And learning to take that perspective with your ADHD is one of the most empowering things that can happen so that you're not trying to fit yourself into someone else's mold. You're not trying to be a different person. You're not trying to pretend to be a different person. You're not masking. You are learning how to adjust and accommodate yourself and with the tools and whatever supports you have in place for yourself objectively and analytically so that you can learn about what works for you and what doesn't.
Very, very, very well said. It's about defining the problem and identifying what the root cause is and then resolving that particular issue. So what I want to do is I'm excited because this program, I've piloted it for about 100 people. I've been training them on it, but I don't have research on it yet. But I wanted to bring validity to it and create curiosity. So because it's a field of engineering, I turn to, theorems and proofs and axioms. I don't remember in 8th grade, you had to prove like a triangle was a triangle, right?
Right.
So what we've derived is an axiom, which is a truth that's derived from other truths. And I'd like to walk through it with you to show what it's produced and then talk about the ramifications. And I'm going to give you the more complicated version because I did consult with Dr. Barkley on this. And I've talked about how I'm technically what it is, but how I do it down. But basically, ADHD is an executive functioning impairment. Okay. My eyesight is impaired. With accommodation, my glasses, I can perform. And so it's important that we understand that. Executive functions are a collection of mind tools used in goal-directed behavior over time to solve problems, right? I'm going to emphasize solving problems because it's easier just to understand it.
Say that one more time. Sorry, Jeff, say that one more time.
Executive functions are a collection of mind tools used in goal-directed behavior over time to solve problems.
Okay. I think that I wanted to underscore that because I think that's so important to understand.
Problems that require executive function are typically multifaceted and ambiguous, involving multiple variables and uncertain outcomes, right? Planning, organizing, managing time, and making decisions are typically multifaceted and ambiguous, especially in real world context. So far, all we're doing is just taking basic truths and building on them. Now, given that ADHD is an executive functioning problem-solving impairment, it explains why those with ADHD have difficulty planning, organizing, managing time, and making decisions, okay? So again, it all logically makes some sense, but here's the cool part. The leading views of cognitive science is that language evolved as a tool to coordinate social behavior and solve shared problems. And think about it like this. If we didn't have a problem, we would not have to communicate. So language was actually derived from the need to do that. Direct communication and collaboration are fundamental mechanisms which humans use to solve complex problems, especially requiring shared understanding and coordination. So in other words, direct communication, face-to-face collaboration is what we've been doing to solve problems since language was born. Thus, All right. Again, we're just building a truth on top of truths. Given that ADHD is an executive functioning impairment, direct communication and collaboration serves as an accommodation to support the impairment. Now, what I want to underscore here, neurotypicals have been using this as an accommodation since language was invented. The issue is people with ADHD need more, let's say 20 times more, right?
Right.
So if this is the case, then having the ability to interact with people, to collaborate, isn't a nicety at work. It should be a required accommodation, such that if the Americans with Disabilities Act were to adopt this, can you imagine somebody coming to your desk in the morning and sitting down with you, talking to you about planning your day?
Right.
Think about that. And what's cool is what the axiom does here too is we're working on the legal argument, because you think about it, when you're having some difficulty, what do? I call it the universal accommodation. If you're in school, go get a tutor, go get a teacher, go to a therapist, go get a coach, go talk to your family, go talk to a mentor. Are you noticing that one thing that all these have in common are direct communication?
Yes.
And so, Lynn, this is kind of a game changer, because up until now, there's been biased because people judge the world through the lens of their own experience. So people that are normal, non-ADHD, they don't understand what it's like to have ADHD because they've never been able to experience it. What attention scope does is it gives them a glimpse of it. Plus, it's convenient for society if you do it their way. So these are cognitive bias that are out there that are just a part of the everyday world. But we also have what I call the intangibility bias. And that is, we prefer things that are very tangible because they make some sense. So we give weight to those, but we dismiss what is abstract.
Absolutely.
And executive functions are abstract. So cognitive ergonomics is a means to bring tangibility to what has been abstract, to provide these axioms to say, people with ADHD, they're intelligent, they're smart, but they need help when it comes to problem solving, specifically things that are multifaceted and ambiguous. Hang on.
Absolutely.
So it's been revolutionary for me. People will call me up and want coaching. Oh, I procrastinate. I literally go, probably 80% of everything that you're putting off at some level is rooted in ambiguity.
Right. I have a thing that I have said for years, is that clarity is the antidote to overwhelm. A lot of the things that we get overwhelmed by, a lot of the things that we get shut down by, things that we avoid, things that we procrastinate, are things that we are unclear. So I will talk about things being nebulous, or things lacking borders and boundaries and hard edges. And,
Lynne,
when you have ADHD, trying to make sense of that in your mind, that is that mental manipulation of information, however, there are lots of different terms for it, but I call it the mental manipulation of information. You have to get it out of your head and to give it clarity. And that's exactly what you're talking about.
I just want to accent. So the model basically, there's a correlation between uncertainty and avoidance. That's hence what I just said. But I also say there's a high correlation between clarity and motivation. So if you're looking for motivation, you're paying attention to the wrong thing. You got to focus in on clarity. How do you get clarity? Often with collaboration. And so, Lynne, this is one of the things that I love about this axiom, because people will call me up and by the way, when we're talking about problem solving, there's a difficult distinction. We're talking about in mind. If you do it out of mind, in collaboration, it works. What we're talking about is in mind. Imagine you're just sitting at a desk with your eyes closed trying to solve a problem. That's an extreme, but that's what I'm talking about. So what's cool is people will come up to me and I'll say 80% of your procrastination is rooted in ambiguity. And they go, but Jeff, if I chunk it down, will that remove the ambiguity? I go, yeah, but it doesn't work. Like, what? No, Jeff, if you're saying 80% of my procrastination list is rooted in ambiguity, and if you're saying that if I chunk it down, that will remove the ambiguity, that should work, but you're saying it doesn't work. And I go, yeah. Why? Because everybody's trying to chunk it down in mind. That's why it doesn't work. When you do it in collaboration with somebody, it does. And so we go back to the beginning. This model begins to explain lots of anomalies that the current way of thinking does not, which is why it's so revolutionary. And rather than train people through cognitive behavioral therapy to try harder, What we're talking about is providing the accommodation to do it in the most natural way, which you referred to yourself a little bit earlier, talking about what systems engineering is all about.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, I'm pretty excited about this. And this axiom is also pretty cool because if you understand the logic and you buy into it, most people with ADHD, they don't want to need help.
Right.
By the way, Dr. Barkley's model, I don't have time, but self-awareness and emotional self-regulation are two executive functions that are in conflict. You got to have one for the other. So
Absolutely.
that's why you don't
Yes.
have it. But a lot of people, they don't want to do it. But if you look around, this accommodation has been hidden in plain sight for thousands of years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thousands of years.
Absolutely.
You coach and you do group, even bad coaching, as long as it's goal oriented, is actually helping you collaborate and think and moving forward. And so
Right.
the fun part about this is I'm saying there's just been this accommodation for ADHD that's been around for thousands of years that's been hidden in
Right.
plain sight. And all I've been able to do is take Dr. Barkley's model and attention scope to bring tangibility to it so we can reveal it's, and like I said, it's just an exciting time when you think about it.
It's really exciting. And I think just anytime that you can bring a different lens to this it's just so important and it's so valuable, right? I think a lot of people, I'm stepping back a little bit, when I talk with my clients about accommodations at work, for example, first step for me is always, looking at where they're having trouble and what can we put in place that is like pretty much a practical kind of everyday, doesn't cost anybody any money, something that we can put in place for you, right?
Yes.
If you're a verbal processor, having those verbal check-ins on a daily or
Yes.
at least a weekly basis. If you're if you process more through handwriting, or you're better at processing through handwriting, or whatever, looking at how we can put accommodations in place for you. And like the vast majority of the time, nobody else really even needs to know that you're considering or that it is considered an accommodation, if that's
Absolutely.
the way you want it to go down, right?
Yes.
Managing up, telling your supervisor, I do best if I can check in with somebody at the beginning and the end of the day. How can we make that work for both of us? I do best when I have clear cut, again, clarity, when I have clear cut expectations,
Mm-hmm.
timelines, deadlines, whatever that is. How can we put this in place in a way that works for both of us? And you learning what works for you is how you manage up, right? It's how you get what you need. I think this is exciting, and I think it's a really important way to look at the things that we struggle with and what's
It,
possible.
it's been okay. Everybody's listening to us, but it's been a blast for me watching Lynn like take this and it explains this, it explains this, and explains this. Like I said, this explains all kinds of stuff that the old one didn't, the old thought process didn't. And again, it is a paradigm, and so it's part of. I'm grateful that you're allowing me to get out there to get the word, because when people like things that are different, but they don't like to be wrong. And the
Right.
thing about a new paradigm
Right.
is it changes our conceptual understanding. And so it's been interesting to me because I'll talk about this to other people, and they're always trying to take what I'm saying and convert it into
The old,
therapy or kind of
right.
coaching. And it's not. Literally, it's an engineering approach, but it explains so much, and I'm excited. It's like one of those things where I'm just trying to get the world. And so cognitive ergonomics from the inside out, I developed it, but it's a field of engineering. Like I can't own a field of engineering. This is for the world. The
Right.
issue is though, you have to understand the mindset. And I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to come on here and talk about what this is and say it's actually really pretty exciting. And it also just this axiom, if a person has ADHD and they're resistant to getting help, this
Right.
logic can like, duh, this does make a lot of sense and help people begin to ask. Because if you take a look at it, Lynn, getting help works like almost all the time.
Right.
Doing it by
Right.
yourself
Right.
almost never works. So if you look
Right.
at the facts are the facts and they're undisputed, right? So it's
Right.
powerful.
It is really powerful. It is really powerful. And I think, again, I can't say it enough. Anytime we can bring a different lens to this and open up the way people are looking at, their own challenges and the challenges of the people around them, and really, look at the simplicity that this presents in terms of solutions. And, a lot of our clients are verbal processors. I mean,
Yes.
some more than others. And there's a lot of value. I mean, there's a lot of value in being able to talk something
Yep.
through, right?
Yeah,
And there are a
so
lot of
Lynn, I
ways
know
to do that as well.
we're
Go
kind of
ahead.
going over, but a little bit. I just want to say, nonverbal working memory, which is basically self-talk, is an executive
Right,
function according to Dr. Barkley. And I tell people is if you'll notice, you talk out loud. Nobody ever taught you how to do that. You do that instinctively because you're
right,
rewarded with higher levels of performance, right? The
right.
cool part about this model is it doesn't look as behavior is wrong. It begins to explain what your behavior is right and how a lot of what people do is actually accommodation. That's not accountability. It's not a tip, trick, or strategy. It's just an
Yep,
accommodation for your
yep.
impaired nonverbal working memory. And it's hidden in plain sight. This model brings validity to it, which is cool.
Absolutely. It is very cool. And guys, one of the things that we talk about, and then, we'll wrap up, but one of the things we talk about a lot in ADHD coaching and in the ADHD world in general is what an accommodation is an externalization of an internal problem. And this
Yes.
is a really great way to look at that. Your executive functions, anything that you're struggling with that is executive function related, is an internal problem. And when you can externalize that with systems and tools and strategies and approaches that actually work for you, there is no impairment, right? So
Yes.
get it out of your head.
You're
Literally get it out of your head.
you meant a condition is something that's diagnosable. An impairment is the physical manifestation of that. A
Right.
disability is the impact of that impairment in daily life. If you get the accommodation, you can actually remove the disability. And it's a simple thing. I can't read without my glasses, but with the accommodation, what would have been a disability is no longer a disability. In a sense, having collaboration helps you focus on ambiguity. That it's really kind of the same thing. So I use glasses, I can focus to read, but collaboration can help you focus and problem solve in the same way. And so when you look at it that way, it just fits like a glove.
It really does. Any last thoughts you want to share with our listeners, and then go ahead and give out your tell our
Sure.
listeners how they can contact you or learn more
So
about this.
my last thought is I'm literally grateful to come on because I'm just trying to get the word out. Like let people know that there's a new day, there's a new way of looking at it. It makes a lot of sense and it works. Spread the word. I just want people to know that this is kind of happening. If you want to learn more about me at digcoaching.com. If you're really curious about the ergonomics, go to ergonomics. Excuse me, www.cognitive-ergonomics.com. You can also get to from my website.
Okay,
We're
and we will
flooding the
put
market
that
right
on
now with
the show notes for the episode as well.
yeah.
I'm sorry,
So
go ahead, Jeff.
again, my desire is really just to let people know there's a new way of thinking about and create some excitement and buzz so that we can change the way the world looks at ADHD and make lives so much easier for those that are impaired.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here, Jeff. Thank you all for listening. I hope you found this helpful. I find it fascinating and really exciting. You can join us in the ADHD Support Talk Facebook group if you have questions, to share your thoughts, ideas, and otherwise connect with us. If you find our podcast helpful, if you enjoy it, we always appreciate if you leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or whatever your platform of preference is, because the more 5-star reviews we get, the more people can find us and get the help and support that they need as well. Thank you all for listening to ADHD Support Talk. As always, I appreciate your attention. Thank you for being here, Jeff, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.